Hello, welcome everyone to From the Ground Up. I'm John Boydnott, your host of this Grit Daily sponsored podcast. We end up being on CEOofficialmag.com and on YouTube and Spotify around the world. Today, we did this show is watched by many entrepreneurs who are looking for advice on how to run their business better and advice on security, which is the main topic of today's conversation. I have with Abhay Bhargav, who joins us. He's the CEO and founder of SecurityReview AI. How are you doing, Abhay?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, John?
I'm great. I'm great. It's better now that I'm here with you. And tell us all about yourself and your background, and tell us about Security Review AI.
Sure. So I am an application security, it's cyber security entrepreneur, more specifically in the application security space. Now, I was not always this. I actually am an accountant by training, and about 17 years ago, as soon as I finished my CPA exam, I was like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do finance anymore. I don't want to create balance sheets and P&Ls. And I was always good with IT and computers, so I wanted to find something at the intersection of that. And that's why I stumbled on software security. And I started off in software security. I started breaking software. I was largely in the what you would call an ethical hacking or a penetration testing role. That's what I used to do for at least 5, 6 years of my initial career. And then I started moving towards the defense part of it, which is basically identifying how you could defend applications better, because that seemed to be the bigger problem. The attack part of it was a lot of people do attacks, and of course, ethical attacks or even otherwise. A lot of people, there are lots of folks doing that. I wanted to kind of focus on the defense, which I thought was the bigger burning problem. And that was a good thing because that kind of got me a lot more mileage in my career from that sense, because I started getting into, I kind of championed a lot of initiatives in the software security space, especially around how you can scale security and how you can do all of that stuff. I built a training platform company in the meantime. And now, and of course, now with AI that has happened over the last couple of years, one of the things that I felt extensively that we could do is scale software security with AI like never before. So that was something and that's what the company is about as well, which is basically helping you use AI to build more secure software products. That's basically the gist of what this product helps you do. So that's the company.
That's great. What are some of the main pain points that you guys are solving? I know that the security review process can take 3 months in some cases. Talk to
Mhm.
me about where you guys are meeting pain points.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about, let me kind of paint you a picture here of what typically happens, right? Now, companies build products, software products all the time. Large companies, small companies, doesn't really matter. Uh, you have thousands of software products or software solutions being built by companies internally for their own use case. Now, the challenge there is that a lot of these companies ideally want to bake in security into their software. They want to. They have the best intentions. They want to bake in security into their software. For you to do that, you need to bring in security a lot earlier in the cycle. You need to be able to say that, okay, this is the software or this is the application we're trying to build, and this could go wrong with the application, right? This is just like you would do any kind of construction project. Think about it that way, right? Before you do a construction project, you have, all of that stuff, those risks mapped out and say, oh, we need to do this because, this would, if it rains, this could be a problem. And if there is some kind of theft, this could be a problem, and you plan for that. And that's basically called threat modeling, where in software that's called threat modeling, where you model the kind of threats your software could have. The problem with that process is that it is super slow, and it is also a very high skill kind of a job. It's slow because imagine that you're threat modeling a large piece of software. Let's say you're threat modeling Amazon. Right? It's a huge undertaking. You have to go through thousands of documents. You have to interview God knows how many people, and then break down that system and then identify the risks, and then come out with some kind of recommendations as to what somebody can do to do that. It's painstaking. It's long. We nearly don't have enough software security folks that can help get this done. Most software security teams are scrambling for people to do this, and they're always backlogged. So this is where we felt that AI would be a huge speed boost and a reducer of cognitive overload for these teams. Basically, AI helps you do all of the heavy lifting and helps you distill it down to very easy ways to actually do this particular process. That's what this does.
Nice. Well, the broader mission behind Security Review AI, are you trying to, democratize security architecture, accelerate DevOps, or redefine how teams think about threat modeling? Talk about the broader mission.
I would say democratize security architecture would be the biggest thing that we're trying to do here. All of those other two things sound great as well, but I would see them as more secondary concerns. The problem today is that a small group of security experts have to cater to the needs of thousands of applications being developed inside an organization. So even a large organization probably has 10, 12 security folks or application security folks. And that's nearly not enough for the amount of work that needs to go into getting this done. So the idea of this is that we want every development team that is building software to just use something like this and come up with it on their own without having to deal with massive amounts of security expertise. So the idea is that we want to decentralize this process, and that's what this helps you do.
Very good. It's why has this been a problem for so long? I mean, many, threat modeling feels like it's a second full-time job. Many people say, why has it become this way? And tell us more about how you guys are helping ameliorate that.
Yeah, I mean, it's so the space that threat modeling is in is one of those very subjective spaces, right? When you ask 20 people about what a threat model is, they would give you 20 different opinions. So that's the problem. So it has a very abstract. A lot of people see it as a very abstract art form. A lot of people see it as an art form, which is something that only super senior security experts do. So there's a lot of mythology around threat modeling, and that's the reason why it has still not been addressed in a meaningful way within an organization. That's why everybody wants to do it, but they don't end up doing it because, hey, it's taking too much time. There's way too much to be done. There are other fish to fry. So they go after those other fish and forget about this, which is actually an extremely important thing that can help you do the other things really well. So that's the problem.
Security Review AI maps real threats to actual components instead of just throwing generic possible threats out there. What's technically happening behind the scenes to make all that and other things that the tool does to make it all possible?
So one of the things that AI security review helps you do with the benefit of AI is that it allows you to ingest a ton of data from multiple sources. So so let's say you're building a piece of software, right? You're going to have some specifications, you're going to have some diagrams. You've probably discussed that software design over calls like this one that you and I are having. You would have probably done a bunch of these things. Now, that's all data that's in different places. Now, Security Review helps digest all of this data, including voice files and movie files and everything, and just pull that and allow you to run an AI on top of that to get this done in a few minutes. That's really where the huge advantage comes in. It allows you to digest tons of data really quickly and get you the results that you need to get very quickly because of that.
A lot of times, there are issues with AI and whether or not all the information that it pulls is 100% accurate. How does Security Review AI sort of compensate for that, allow for that, work with that to make sure that the information that it's pulling isn't hallucination? All those sort of talk about that, if you would.
That's a very valid and a very important question. So we've done a whole bunch of things. So one of the things that we've done is we've added a lot of trust-based controls into our system, which basically says that, look, whenever you are suggesting something to the user, that suggestion must be grounded in reality. Means that you should have gotten it from some source that has led you to make that decision. That is extremely important for you to do every single time. The second thing that we've done is we've added a judge AI into the whole process. So you have a generator AI and a judge AI. So the generator AI does the job of actually generating all of the stuff. The judge AI reviews the work of the generator AI and says, okay, you seem to have done fine, or oh, you've not done so well this time, so we're going to throw this out. It's not very cooked yet, so no, we're not going to keep this. So it basically has a combination of all of these things so that it prevents the sort of hallucinations that people are really worried about.
That's fantastic. And you found that it's been pretty successful so far in eliminating some of the hallucination issues.
Oh yeah, in fact, many of our customers have seen insights from this that they have not been able to find even with human expert threat modelers. So they've really identified, oh my God, we didn't actually think about this thing and this found it, and we are really that's really a useful thing. So not only has this been a very powerful tool to reduce hallucinations down to near negligible numbers, but also it has been a much bigger value add because it's been able to find those needle in a haystack type issues that actually can trigger a significant impact.
Fantastic. Yeah. To talk about another thing related to some companies that are getting security going in their companies, a lot of times they have incomplete architecture. They don't have all the policy docs, issues of that nature, which make it hard to run security reviews for people, especially maybe for AI. But how is your system sort of handling that where other tools can't?
Yeah, this is one of the most common problems in our space, which is that uh, people don't really have very good documentation. They don't have very good diagrams. This is a very common issue. One of the things that that's why we give you tons of integrations. We ship with tons of integration. You can literally pull in Slack channel messages and use that as input for your threat model. You can pull in voice files of recordings like this one and make that input for your threat models. You can use code bases. This is one of the biggest things that we did early on, which is we can use full code bases to be able to perform threat models, which is something that has not been done so far, simply because code has always been something that is considered a completely different entity. It's not something that threat models go into. But now that we have AI, we are able to analyze massive complex code bases through through our agents and actually use that as input for threat model. So the idea is, even if you have zero documents, if you have anything, if you have literally anything, you should be able to get started.
But there is this automation element with the AI, but how do you balance that with expert oversight? So where does the human review fit in to the overall process?
Yeah, absolutely. This one of the things that we've always maintained and we've built into our design itself is that there needs to be a human review after every step in this process. So we've always added human in the loop as a fundamental design choice. It's not that you can just go berserk and just have the AI do everything for you. You have to have step-by-step human review. It doesn't. It So the review is not very intrusive. It doesn't mean that everyone is approving every single thing. But at the same time, after every logical, significant step or significant set of events that happen, you have to review it and then proceed with the next step. So we've always given major impetus to the human actually kind of validating this and then moving ahead.
Very good. Yeah. How does the tool also, I know, helps folks move just from identifying the problems to actually fixing them? Uh,
Yeah.
how, how does it do that? Just for anyone interested.
So the tool essentially provides very detailed countermeasures and mitigation information. So it provides, in many cases, it provides code snippets. It provides best practices for that specific component and says that, okay, when you are doing this on an Oracle database or a MySQL database, this is what you need to do in order to make it more secure. Specific configuration, specific code, specific parameters that can help you do this. So that's really one of the big things that it helps you do. It helps you also generate countermeasures and mitigations for very small feedback loops. So what happens a lot of times is that developers check in code and they want somebody to review it. So you can essentially outsource that review to our agent, to our security review agent, and that would essentially handle that whole use case completely.
That's great. Yeah, no, you were just talking about the clean countermeasure mappings, and how can you do one fix that solves multiple threats, but how do you prevent any creation of new risks? So, does the tool help with any? Obviously, it probably helps with that. Tell us how it does.
So yeah, in terms of preventing any new risks to come in, it essentially gives you the ability to to track this across different stages. So if you've not fixed something in the previous one, it would still flag in the next review that you do. If you fix something in the previous one, it does not just show up again. So it just tracks that and gives you a state of where you are versus where you want to be.
Fantastic. Yeah. Now we're rapidly getting to the point where it's kind of a continuous, compliance culture nowadays, where you always have to have your security posture maintained. And so, how does the tool help with sort of this ongoing compliance that this world that's popping up now?
Oh yeah, I mean the tool. One of the things that we've done is we've provided compliance as a first-class citizen, so to speak, right? So everything can be mapped to compliance or some kind of official taxonomy. Everything has been mapped to that. So you can essentially select from a whatever compliance is relevant for that particular project, and you're off to the races. You basically get all of that specific information mapped, all objectives mapped to that, all threat scenarios mapped to that, all countermeasures mapped to that. You have specific compliance related reports that you can generate, download, and use. So yeah, you have all of that. So even if you have an auditor coming in tomorrow, let's say for a who's doing a PCI DSS audit and they want to see some kind of a threat modeling report or some kind of a threat report, they can get a report generated in a few seconds, and you can show them what the state of your security posture is.
Well, you're one of the best people I've had on the show to talk to about where AI is going in the coming years as far as security architecture goes, and it looks like it's going to continue to have an impact. Where do you see in the next couple of years as sort of the biggest impact, maybe the biggest positive impact that AI will have in the coming years when it comes to security architecture?
So I think in the broader scope of things, AI is definitely going to alleviate a lot of the security backlog that exists right now across the industry, right? So across the industry, you will see that security is one of those things that is hugely backlogged in a lot of companies. Now, because again, the security talent is limited and the job is massive. So that's going to be a huge area where AI is going to impact because it can help you, solve that barrier. Specifically in security architecture, because AI agents and AI in general allows you to analyze, ingest, and distill complex information across different structured and unstructured data sets, it gives you the ability to get ahead of the problem for the first time in I would say in the history of what we know as security architecture, actually get ahead of the problem and probably get some kind of grips on it, because right now there is not too many ways to do that.
Yeah, another question that occurs to me as far as AI in the future goes is it going to get to the point where AI can fully replace the expertise, the threat modeling expertise, or is it more just going to augment the human expertise that's there already? What are your thoughts around that?
So right now, I would say it is definitely augmenting things, and I don't see that. And while I see that Windows changing to a certain extent, I don't think it's going to fully replace a human expert. Simply because when it comes to AI, it does tend to have its blind spots, and even with a lot of tuning, a lot of evaluation, a lot of guardrails to prevent that from happening, you could have a scenario where people. It's always better to have somebody look over this stuff, simply because it's security, right? It's not one of those things that is just a no. Let us say this was some kind of a creative writing type of thing. Then that's fine. You don't need to have guardrails. You don't need to have human in the loop, or you don't need to have human review. But with security or these kind of critical business use cases, you probably should have some kind of a human verification at some level, simply because that you want to prevent. It's just like anything else, right? Even if somebody is doing a threat model, or if there's somebody is doing a security assessment, you want someone senior to look over that before it's actually released or published. It's the same thing. I don't see that changing by much over time.
Okay, so talking to you, Abe, you are somewhat of a security expert when it comes to all of these subjects. I mean, looking on LinkedIn, I noticed you have more than 12,000 followers. So there's a good chance that when people look up your name, that this podcast may eventually come up, or when they look up security, AI, um,
Hmm.
security architecture, you'll probably come up. So it's wanted to ask you about also the show's about leadership. It's about
Hmm.
advice for entrepreneurs on how they can run their business better. For you, you have an AI first security company. As a longtime security practitioner, what's been some of the biggest learning curve for you when it comes to starting your company and building your company?
Yeah. Actually, some of the biggest learning curves for me was to understand that just building a product is not really enough, or even building a good product is not really enough. It's really about building something and being able to sell that something. So it's very important, uh, and having a certain methodology to sell it and go after it in a certain way. I think it's very important. Yes, it's very important to have a great product. It's very important to have a good team. All of that stuff is great, but you also need to solve a very specific problem, and you need to be able to sell that solution to that very specific problem. So the more you try and keep it very like, oh, anybody can use this, it's not going to make sense. You need to know exactly who is going to be, who's going to be helped by your solution, who has a problem that your solution can help, whatever that solution may be. It could be a product, it could be a service, it could be whatever, and basically address that. That's one big learning curve that I've had a couple of failed product starts somewhere along the line, and that's helped me actually, kind of narrow this down in a pretty significant way. I'm not saying I've fully cracked that yet, even now, but I am definitely better off than I was when I had not cracked it. When I had not, so yeah.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. We're all going through our process as entrepreneurs and professionals in the businesses the spaces that we're in, and you build up experience over time, and you see things that didn't work. But noticing you, I see with your go to market strategy, I see you doing Instagram videos to show your expertise. I see obviously there's LinkedIn, there's YouTube channels. In your mind, why are these channels so important for the go-to-market strategy, even for such a technical type of company?
So I think, regardless of the technology used, I think people are tired of being sold to. So one of the things I've stopped seeing value in is that, hey, I used to cold call, and or having a sales team that does cold calling or emailing and saying, hey, we have this out there. Why don't you come and look at our product? I think people have just put up barriers around this stuff, right? People are just tired of being sold to all the time. They're tired of being programmed all the time in terms of being sold to. So, one of the things that I have found very useful is to play the long game in that sense, where you don't sell to them at all. You basically just impart knowledge and share your expertise, and that's good enough. If somebody needs to find you, they'll find you. And thankfully that's happened. That's kind of played out in my case multiple times, wherever I speak. Let's say I speak at a conference, I do YouTube videos, I do blogs, I do any kind of knowledge sharing. That's been a value add to my businesses as well, simply because people have discovered us through that. In fact, we get very strong lead flows only because of the stuff that we've done on all of these areas. So we actually don't even have an outbound sales team anymore. So we've gotten to a point where we don't have an outbound sales team. We just have sales fulfillment at this point, which is basically handling this stuff. We do have a little bit of, external outbound sales, but very, very limited. Not even close to some of these other companies that have massive investments in sales teams.
Fantastic. Yeah, good advice for folks out there. You have to go out there and you have to show the wisdom that you have, the knowledge that you have, and people will attach themselves to you based on they like your personality or they like the product that you're delivering. So it's always good to get that type of advice. As far as advice that you would give to security leaders out there trying to modernize their architecture review processes these days, what are some key things that you would want to make sure that you would recommend for them if they're as they do that?
So first of all, I would say that for security leaders, one of the big mistakes we've made in security historically is focusing on downstream problems, which is basically problems that come in after the product is going to be built or close to when the product is being built or deployed. Unfortunately, most of the money has gone there historically. This is we are entering a time, especially because you'll see AI building products. You're going to see AI building software. You're going to see AI deploying software. You're going to see all of that stuff. It's very important to understand that the scale at which software is getting shipped has fundamentally changed. Probably gotten 100 times faster. So you need to think about security right at the beginning. You cannot have a scenario where security is just an afterthought and you're investing in that afterthought style solutions. So I would say that the focus should be on investing in preemptive security, which is basically security architecture. And that's where our security architecture and awareness, and that's really where you should be focusing on.
Sounds good. What's next for Security Review AI? Upcoming features, partnerships, integrations. Tell us what the coming months and years are looking like there.
So we've with Security Review, we've actually added a very interesting integration that we've released recently, which allows you to not just do a security review, but link it to a actual security test. So it actually runs an AI generated security test to see whether, hey, you have this theoretical threat. Does this actual threat exist in your application? It tells you whether it exists or not. So that kind of stuff, right? So it goes from theory to actually validating it, which is very interesting. We also have integrations with a lot of GRC tools that we're building out, because GRC is an area a lot of companies need. Threat modeling integrated with their governance, risk, and compliance. And this is a major area of focus for us. That's what we're doing in the next 6 months. I don't even know what we're doing beyond that, because this space moves so quickly that things get outdated as I speak sometimes. So this is what we're thinking about for the next 6 months.
Well, that's fantastic, Abhay. Really appreciate having you on the show. What's the best way, if any company is interested in checking out the security tools that you provide, what's the best way that they can get in contact with you or the company?
So with the company, you can just visit securityreview.ai, which is our website. You have our resources there. We have a ton of content we share there as well. In terms of me personally, the best way to reach me is LinkedIn. I'm always on LinkedIn, quite extensively on LinkedIn, as you pointed out. So I'm available on LinkedIn very easily, and any questions you have, a lot of people reach out to me for questions, for mentorship requests. Happy to take them. I'm happy to engage.
That's awesome. Great to have you on from the ground up, Abhay Bhargav of SecurityReview.ai.
Thank you so much, John.